Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. It is Friday now. I've got this really cool story. This is actually about 18 months old, this story. So you probably, maybe you've already heard of it. It is about the Thomas Newman collection. Dr. Thomas Newman, a doctor from Florida, passed away last year or the year before that, in 2020 or 2021. He had been collecting for 40 years, and he left his family a collection, and they put up 10% of the collection for sale through memory lane auctions, and it sold for $21.5 million. So it's really an interesting story, and I'm going to get to the cards as well. But I'm really fascinated by these huge collection finds. Or I guess it's not a find; it's a inheritance for the family, and good for them. So he started collecting in the early '80s, and he got into it he wanted to replace the cards that his mother had thrown away when he was a kid. Very common story. I think I've done another collection episode like this before. So he started out with 1957, 58, and 59 baseball because that's what he collected as a kid, and he wanted to replace those trashed cards. He called them his paper babies, and would leave work early, his medical practice early, and say he was going to go and play with his paper babies. This was a true collector. He didn't care about the value of the cards at all. People would offer to buy him, pay 5 times as much for a card as he just bought it for, and he would say no, because he was attached to the cards. I can relate to this, although at this point I have a hard time turning down a huge profit. But yeah, I mean, I just want my cards. I just want to collect. It's really an interesting story because his family said that while he was alive, he refused to sell cars unless they were duplicates that he had upgraded, and he would sell the lower value or lower graded card. They said that if somebody ever came to him and offered him $100 million for his collection, he would have said no. And he told his family, because nobody else in the family was a collector, that he wanted them to work with memory lane auctions when he died to sell it and give them the money. So smart of him, and he just kept collecting. And he had millions of cards. Only 10% of them actually sold through this auction. He was storing his cards, the most valuable cards he was storing in a huge safe in his house, but he also had some securely stored in cabinets and closets in his house. And then he also had some in the locked up in the top floor of his medical practice. They were just all over the place. I think some of us can relate to that as I look around my basement here. He was always ordering from eBay. He'd get very excited whenever they came in. And again, this guy was just a collector. I get cards in my mailbox, whether it's TTM or eBay or Twitter or whatever. I get very excited when I get them. So I totally related to this guy when I found this article. So here are the cards that he sold, or that were sold for him at auction. He had a 1933 Babe Ruth Gowdy card, PSA 9, I think is the highest ever, or was until recently. I don't remember exactly. Sold for $4.2 million. And remember, this is middle of 2021. Prices hadn't yet peaked. There's another Ruth Gowdy, 1933, number I think 181 or 187. It's a different card from that set of Babe Ruth. It sold for $1.2 million. He had a 1916 Ruth Sporting News rookie card that sold for $1.4 million. He had a 52 Topps Mantle PSA 8, sold for a then record $2.1 million. And this one came from the Al Rosen Mr. Mint find, the Rosen find collection in 1986. So Dr. Newman actually had heard of Mr. Mint, and he called him up one day. Mr. Mint told him that he had just bought this collection of 1952 cards, or found them, and offered to sell Newman a few of them. And Newman went and looked at them and chose out a handful, and one of them was 52 Topps Mantle, and that got him hooked on the hobby at that point. And that was 1986. So interesting origin story. You know, if there were ever a collector comic book movie, like a Marvel collector, and his origin story were buying the 52 Topps mantle in 1986. I think that would be a fun story. He also had a 1888 N162 Goodwin Champs Cap Anson that sold for $207,000. I'm not going to go over all the cards, of course. I'm not even going to go over all the most expensive ones, but the most interesting ones I'm going to go through here. There was, in his football collection, was a 1935 Bronco Nagurski. There was a Tom Brady rookie, Jim Brown rookie, Joe Namath rookie. Complete sets of 1935, 48, and 57. In his basketball collection, he had a 1948 Bowman George Mikan PSA 9. He had a small lot of 1940 Superman cards that went for $42,000. He had a 1959 Three Stooges card that sold for $11,000. Also of interest, 1903 World Series program that went for $112,000. 1903 World Series, I think 1903 was the first World Series. I should have researched this. Let me know in comments. For some reason that sticks out in my brain from my childhood when I knew everything about baseball history. 1929 baseball, autographed by Babe Ruth, sold for $34,000. It also came with a home run of Ruth, I think, signing the baseball and hitting a home run that day, maybe. There was a 1925 Gehrig that went for over $1 million. A 33 Gowdy Gehrig that went for $302,000. A 1939 play ball Joe DiMaggio PSA 9 went for $218,000. And a 1941 play ball Ted Williams went for $206,000. So quite an amazing collection. Memory Lane auction house guy, I don't remember his name, said it was one of the 10 largest collections sold at auction. He compared it to the Barry Halper collection from 1998, which sold for about $22 million. $22 million in 1998 collection money, got to be $100 million now, right? So I think my next video, or my next collection video at some point in the next week or so, will be the Barry Halper collection. I'm going to see what I can find on this. Stick around. Click that subscribe button if you're interested. I do about 4 of these videos per week, 3 to 4. Yeah, I'm really interested in collection finds, collection sales, mostly rare vintage stuff, and this fit the bill for sure. So yeah, let me know in comments, had you heard of this collection before, and what is the card in here that you found the most interesting that sold? Okay, thanks very much for watching.